should you visit the CLINK Museum. For an unvarnished opinion, here's your host who loves... You sure about this, sir?
Get on with it, Cartwright.
Apologies, sir. The host who loves toast, the Lovely Londoner.
Oi, oi! Here's me quick review of the Clink. Family, friendly, culture.
The history.
The term clink is a slang name for jails dating back to the 14th century, and this museum actually sits on the site of a two-storey clink built in the 1400s. The word clink has a couple of possible origins. Most obviously, it's onomatopoeia, innit? Clink is like the sound of the blacksmith's hammer smashing the heavy irons around the wrists of an hapless prisoner. But it can also come from the word clinch, which means to connect or seal, or even from the Flemish word clink, which means latch. Still, can't say the word clink rings true to my ears. Clang might have been better. Clink sounds more like the noise you make when bumping glasses of beer before that first sweet taste of the amber nectar. Oh Christ, I could do with a pint right now. Hang on. Anyway, in 1144 the Bishop of Winchester had a private jail installed within the walls of Winchester Palace in the London borough of Southbank. Seems weird that a bishop would run a jail, right? But in the 9th century, a church council had decided places of worship should have jails so that unruly monks could be punished if they got smashed on mead or, I don't know, tried to grow hair in the middle of their head, not just round the sides. Guilty monks might get solitary confinement or a good whipping. Things were brutal in those days. Now, of course, everything's gone to pot and monks are making beer as much as they bloody want, especially in Belgium, and they call that progress. Well, I suppose it is, because their beer is bloody good. Christ, I could do with a flagon of Trappist now as it goes. Hang on. Over the years, though, Southwark has loads of clinks because of a clear divide that existed in London. The north of the river was all prim and proper and law-abiding, while the south was where people went to have fun, to drink, to gamble, to dance. And OK, less acceptable things like bear baiting and dog fighting were popular too. It was like the Wild West, or the Wild South, I suppose, and so more jails or clinks were needed for all the naughty people. Not that much has changed in all honesty. While South Londoners have cut out the animal cruelty, they are, in the main, still friendly, fun-loving folk who enjoy a good time. Similarly, people north of the river are just as poncy, joyless and hypocritical as they were in the Middle Ages. And if you don't believe me, try spending an afternoon at the bloody Emirates. Scum! Sorry. Clinks existed for around 600 years until they were burned down by Protestants in anti-Catholic riots in 1780. But let's stop the history lesson and get inside.
The experience.
The entrance to the clink takes you straight down into a dark hole, and that sets the tone for what's to come. Descriptions of ye oldie brothels, torture gear and heads on spikes. Basically, it's the perfect tourist destination for the whole family.
Darling, hold my hand. Oh, won't you hold my hand?
The first part of the museum tells the story of the kinds of people who wound up in the clink and why, like lewd ladies who stiffed their clients, people who couldn't pay their debts, and priests jailed for the heresy of believing in a slightly different religion to the one they were supposed to be believing in at the time. Among them was John Lothrop, pastor of a Southwark church who was eventually allowed to leave the clink and bugger off to America on the Griffin. Once there, he and wife Anna Hammond started breeding, and now millions of Americans can trace their lineage back to this jailbird, including 6 presidents and, maybe more impressively given 2 of them are Bushes, Clint Eastwood. There's also fascinating info about life in the clink. For example, prisoners had to pay for everything while doing their bird, from hire of the room to a drink of grubby water. Some of the trials were a bit mad too. Accused folk were forced to burn themselves. And if after 3 days they were healing, God knew they were innocent and they were let go. No harm done, except for the actual harm that was done. But if the wounds festered, God didn't give a so they must be guilty. I was pleased to see the museum cares about the kiddies too, with a warning there for them to not deliberately burn the shit out their hands just because people did it under duress 800 years ago. But let's be honest, the main reason anyone is coming here is to see the vicious instruments of torture and read about the horrific ways in which they were used. It's good, healthy fun, innit? And the Clink don't disappoint or hold back. Among the stuff on display you can learn about branding, where they burn a letter into your skin to indicate your crime. There's the scavenger's door, which looks painful and complicated, but helpfully someone made a small crude doll wearing it so you could have a better idea of how it all worked. And there's the heretic fork that stops you from falling asleep unless you want a fork pronged through your chin. There's loads of it, but for some reason the one that makes me properly shudder is the boot. Prisoners would put their foot inside this thing, then wedges of wood would be hammered in before being soaked in water. Then as the wood expands, their foot would be slowly crushed. Seriously, there was some sick thinking up this back then. If you still want more, flick through the touchscreen installation. It's full of pictures and descriptions that are guaranteed to keep you awake at night. Sometimes they have simple clear names like the tongue sharer, a thing that tears the tongue. Other times they're more poetic, like the pear of anguish, which is used to mutilate victims by putting it in their mouth and then twisting it to open up the petals. This here might be the most chilling use of the words "or elsewhere" I've ever seen. Some Clink inmates would eventually be put to death for their crimes and their heads displayed on London Bridge as a deterrent for others. However, to lighten the mood, a bit of fun is to play which celebrities are these heads based on. My best guesses are Ozzy Osbourne, RIP to the legend, possibly Hugh Grant in his 90s pomp, a young Jeremy Corbyn when someone told him he'd lead the Labour Party one day, and this bloke who might be Piers Brosnan. I don't know, put it in the comments. And finally, to complete the tour, you get to put your hands in a coffin and see if you can guess what's inside using your sense of touch. Quality. Now, if you have a nervous disposition and all that gore seems a bit much for your young kiddies, have no fear. There's a fun treasure hunt for the little uns to follow whereby they have to find out how many rats there are hidden in the Clink. Not real ones, but not cuddly ones either. If they get it right, they can have a prize from the gift shop. To be honest, the staff are so lovely they'll probably get something even if they missed a couple. That'll take the edge off the crow with an eyeball in its mouth.
The summary.
Okay, here's some quick reviews from me mates, Baz, Gaz, Faz and Beatrice. The Clink. Family, friendly, torture. But should you go? Well, if you enjoy horrible histories and are interested in learning in detail how a scold's bridle works, then yes. But if Hugh Granted on a spike or the details of how rat torture works will give you nightmares, then no. Do something else instead. Those reviews, make of them what you will.
The logistics.
The Clink's address is easy to remember. It's 1 Clink Street, innit? Just off the Southbank. Nearest station is London Bridge, or get there by Thames Clipper boat by getting off at Bankside. It's open every day and prices are not bad at £8 for adults, bit less for the kiddies. The Clink only takes about half an hour to wander around, maybe slightly more depending how much you love medieval culture. So the Lovely Londonder's top tip is probably to work it into a day of other stuff. Maybe get there from London Bridge and have lunch at Borough Market. Or go to Monument, go up at Pauline Domehead and then wander across the Wobbly Bridge. Or make your way to Blackfriars. Stroll down the South Bank and take in Tate Modern and or Shakespeare's Globe and or have a pint or 6 at the Anchor, which, as far as I know, is no longer a brothel. I find many museums are more fun if I've had a sharpener first, which reminds me. The end.
Thanks awfully for sticking with us through the blood and gore. Sweet dreams, and do like and subscribe. It would make Double L's heart sing.
Oi, Cartwright, there's no gold leaf on me fairy cake. WTF is this?
Sorry, sir, those were meant for the dogs. Here are yours, double layers of gold leaf as per usual.
Lovely.